back. You're still watching Nile Cruise. Revolutions and major political transformations usually drive us to revisit political science and the theories used to analyze political phenomena. This was an effect of the 25th of January revolution that led us to think about new concepts and methodologies in order to analyze it. From those concepts is the concept of the body. The transformation of the Egyptian political scene represented in the 25th of January revolution had a relation with the human body, which gave a new perspective to resistance. Let's know more about this interesting theme from our guest, who has written a book under the name Body and Politics. Joining us, Mariam Wahid, Assistant Lecturer of Political Science at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science with Cairo University. I'd like to thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be with you.
Thank you very much. Now let's start. You're the author of the book Body and Politics, which tackles somehow the relationship between body and politics theoretically, and focuses on the Egyptian revolution from one side. If you can tell us a little bit first about, this era, specific era, revolution, things happening around Egypt, and political transformations ongoing for the last 3 or 4 years, and you can give us a perspective about the body and politics and how this concept is arising.
Okay, as for the book, it was originally my master's thesis. I've been writing it for around 4 years. I actually started before the revolution. My research interests were about body and politics as a major theme in political theory.
Yes.
Then came the Egyptian revolution. Yes. It was massive protests erupted, and I found out that the human body is very effective in the revolution. Always revolutions are analyzed from this class dimension or from Marxist analysis, but I wanted to focus on the agency, the role of individuals in igniting these revolutions, and how individuals from different ideologies, from different ideological backgrounds, intellectual backgrounds, form together one mass, and this was the mass that toppled the regimes. Yes. So this was the main theme. Focusing on the body, from at first the book is classified into three chapters, three main chapters. The first chapter is about the concept of body in arts and sciences in general, and focusing on the body in religion. Like introducing the reader to what's the body, what's about the body, what's yes. the main characteristics of the body, how it was tackled in different.
But I'm very curious to know what do you exactly mean with the relationship of a body with the politics? How is this, in fact,
it was like this human body is always biological thing. It was cared about the relation in philosophy, for example, the relation between mind and body. But this idea of the relation between body and politics, how in an area, for example, like body language of the body or body language, that how the body, if you draw something on your body, if you write something as a slogan, you are protesting, and this is kind of a relation between the body and politics. This yes. is one theme. Another theme is martyrdom, that when people are martyrs, they are other people like hold protests, and this
yes.
This is actually a relation as well between body and politics.
Yes.
How the self-immolation, actually the beginning of the revolution was this self-immolation of Bouazizi in Tunisia. So it's a relation between body and politics.
Yes, and as you're speaking, it reminds me also of a lot of pictures at the time of the 25th of January revolution about people that we still actually remember
their faces,
their faces and how they were protesting, and how they were standing maybe on top of towers and protesting. And
yeah, that's why in the book there's a whole file of pictures from the revolution, because yes, I participated in it, and I was caring to work there as a researcher as well. It's not yes. like a protester only or something, but it was about also taking pictures and doing my own job as an assistant lecturer.
And it's interesting that you started before the revolution and you had this in mind. So what exactly happened to your thesis, and while you were thinking about this book, what is the type of transformation that actually happened to you in 2010 and 2011, because this is a totally different perspective and total different, stage when it comes to the political aspect.
Yeah, we were just thinking with my supervisors as well that we can't study politics through the old concepts, but we have to study new concepts, focusing on the human agency, focusing on the individuals, focusing on women, for example, yes. As also women through like moving from this all the sexual harassment or the attacks on the woman is also political. It's not only social. So,
yeah, so you put this into a relation.
These issues were in mind, but when protests erupted, it was like the main theme of the book. Yeah.
So things came to reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, it came to reality by like massive number of deaths and injuries. So this was a bad aspect, but the good aspect is that people are also participating in political life.
Yes. So this is exactly the concern or something that was raised by a lot of activists around how sexual harassment was used politically.
Yeah.
In your opinion, and in the book, how did you tackle this point, and what do you mean by a relation of politics and sexual harassment?
Okay, as for sexual harassment, I believe that it's economic and social and political. So maybe it was a tool by some regimes to like put some thugs in Tahrir Square to make women away from politics, from the public sphere. But it also has its social aspects as well and its economic aspects. So it's not only
because a few could
driven
be
by some forces. It's unfortunately a disease.
Yes, and I think it's also it's something cultural a little bit. So like you mentioned, it could be a trigger by a couple, 2, 3, but again, the mass would be coming, following, those 2 or 3.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not political, maybe driven by this political bad circumstances that we're going through, this normative change driven by political situations, so it's linked to politics. But I focused on it from this different backgrounds. Actually, it can be discussed from a political aspect as well, because it's a form of authority from this who's doing the sexual harassment on women. Yes. So it's a form of authority as well in this.
In this context,
power, yeah.
So this is, the concept of body and politics is thoroughly studied in the West, and
of course.
So how is it tackled, and how is this, topic or concept advancing in terms of understanding and analyzing versus what we have here in Egypt?
This is the first study about body and politics in the Egyptian Revolution, either in the West or in the East or any place. But there were a lot of, since the 70s, there are lots of books about body and politics. So, but it's a new subject because it's the first thesis about body and politics in Egypt, and you can find very few books about body and politics in general. Very, very few in Arabic, but in English there are lots of them.
So what are the variation of bodies that influenced the Egyptian political scene, in your opinion?
The body was the body of the individual, and as well the body of the societal body, the body politic in general. We are now discussing how we can form a body politic, which means like this is a metaphor for the body, that the body politic, that people to the state can be organs to a human body as well, because each has a role inside this human body, in the body of the state.
Interesting. So how can the human body be a political tool individually and collectively from what you're saying today? So how could groups, enforce strategies, enforce change in the society, and a lot of aspects or weaknesses that we're already experiencing, if I may say?
For the human body in general, it's like we are still like, unfortunately there are massive attacks on the human individual, and for the groups I think that the idea that we have to care about each other because we are organs, like in the human body, like we are like citizens inside a state. So we have to take care of the state as well, not merely about thinking about ourselves, because martyrs, for example, wanted a better Egypt, so they just sacrificed themselves for that cause. So I believe that we should care for each other, we should care for the state, we should care for our private interests as well as the national interest about other people's interests.
So from this philosophical point of view, what would be the heart of this body?
The heart of the body?
This body from a political aspect.
Actually, previously, this idea of the head of the state is everything in the state, but I'm not sure that this is correct, because I believe that people should, the leader and the ordinary citizens, everyone should have his role. So I'm not to the idea that there's like one mind thinking about everything in the state and directing it to one cause. I don't believe this is correct. Maybe there's this one will for everybody, but we have to think collectively about what can be a better Egypt.
Yes, interesting. So it was really a great concept speaking to you today, Mariam, about how you indulged this concept and integrated both of them. And it's very nice to have you put religion, biology, and all of this. How did you manage to get all of these aspects into the same book?
It was like an introduction to the concept of body. I took something from everything. I took something from philosophy, I took something from religion, I took something from, because I believe that this is kind of interdisciplinary studies in political science. These are new studies that we can't separate politics from economy, we can't separate politics from religion through the idea of martyrdom, for example, through the idea of prayers and politics. It's linked. So we can't just separate in our analysis because we want to do something in specific. This is type of post-behavioralist studies.
Congratulations for your first book, and best of luck for that. Body and Politics author, and Mariam Wahid, Assistant Lecturer of Political Science at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on now to this upcoming story, and we're returning back with more.